In the span of my life, perhaps the most terrifying encounter I've ever had is not with a spider, but with my wife in the presence of a spider. Pure, unadulterated horror. How many times have I been summoned to battle Shelob in the dark corners of my bedroom or basement? Fear of spiders is not a new phenomenon, and in today's video, we will look at the mythology of spiders. As I've previously referenced, the mythology master J.R.R. Tolkien understood the primordial origin of spiders with the spawn of Ungoliant, the spider Shelob. Just like Shelob is as old as Middle-earth, Tolkien understood that mythology of spiders also goes back to creation. In studying spider mythology, there are two basic categories of spider stories: tricksters and creators. Since my stories focus on what I describe as Minnesota mythology, we'll get Judeo-Christian culture out of the way first. There just isn't much. There's an interesting cave tale where a hero is pursued by an evil king, and the spider builds a web at the entrance of the cave, proof that the hero didn't pass. But that's about all we get from Judeo-Christian stories. Norse mythology is also a bit sparse, but the trickster god Loki does have some interesting connections through his name, which has inferences to knots, loops, tangles, and webs. Prior to his imprisonment, Loki is caught in a net, and being tied in bondage also connects the fly caught in a web concept. Loki and his offspring have names that imply variations on the word of thin, which is a trait of spiders also. The Oceti-Sakowin people, also known as the Lakota and Sioux, have a major figure known as Iktomi, who is the child of a creator god. Although Iktomi is described as a shapeshifter, his primary form is that of a spider. Most Lakota legends portray Iktomi as a silly figure, both in physical form and deed. While he often seeks laughter, he can also be a sly teacher. As we'll see with other cultures, this trickster also warns humans about the future and is known to shape events around his prophecies. One of the more popular sources for spider legends comes from Western Africa culture and the Caribbean. Anansi is very similar to Iktomi in his style. In my Dreamcatcher Chronicles series, I have 3 humans who represent the spider, but I also have Anansi, a variation on the word Anansi, who is influenced by the willow and spiders. The second characteristic found in spider mythology is the weaver of fate. For Egyptians, Neith was the spinner and weaver of fate. The Celts also had a goddess, Arianrhad, who was the weaver of cosmic time. In Greek mythology, there is a very similar name to Arianrhad, Ariadne, who is another weaver whose thread of influence helps save children fated for sacrifice to the Minotaur. Greek mythology also brings us Arachne, who was a figure that was cursed by Athena. The legend goes that Arachne boasted her weaving skills were better than Athena, and she was right. But an upset Athena shamed her and this shame led Arachne to suicide by hanging, which was when Athena transformed Arachne into a spider. The concept of three goddesses associated with fate can also be seen in the Greek idea of trivium, otherwise known as the three witches in Macbeth who worship Hecate, the Greek fates, and also the Norse Norns. In general, the concept is that fate is woven, measured, and cut by three figures who represent the child, the maiden, and the crone. This concept is used in my Dreamcatcher Chronicles series, with Lily seeing all three and then recognizing herself as the old hag in the distant future. Her grandmother's self reaches back through time with warnings of the future. The character of Grandma Lily came from my own family with my great-grandmother Lily Girton, and I settled on the name Lily because of Jean-Nicolas Nicolet's connection to both Lura Lake in my backyard, which had mystical lily flowers, and also his trip up north to Lake Manitou, where Shagobay warned of disturbing the water lilies, whose roots descend to the sleeping water spirit. The idea of grandmother spider, however, is a concept as large as North and South America. From the Nazca lines to the Hopi Indians, grandmother spider is an ancient being of creation. While my character's preferred modern name is Lily Weber, her traditional birth name is Tawapa Asabikashi. Tawapa is the Dakota name for Water Lily Lake, and Asabikashi is a reference to the Anishinabe's version of Grandmother Spider. Since the Dreamcatcher Chronicles primarily take place in Minnesota, I took a closer look at the Anishinaabe tales, whose Dreamcatcher is a bent willow in the shape of a teardrop. The thick end is the past and the thin is the future, and the present is the place where the two overlap. Inside the loom is the web of Grandmother Spider. The simplest explanation is that the Dreamcatcher traps bad dreams, allowing only good dreams to pass through. A darker version of the legend tells that recently deceased souls who became lost would seek to return to the bodies of young people. To protect children, a Dreamcatcher would be placed above the sleeping child in the days following a death. Other variations on the tale is that the willow and sinew would remain solid until fate saw fit for the loom to collapse, signifying the safety of adulthood. Although many people are scared of spiders, most mythologies portray them as a benign presence and a good omen. When Robert the Bruce was hiding prior to becoming King of Scotland, he witnessed a spider weave a web, only to see it destroyed, only to build a second, only to see that destroyed, only to rebuild a third time, leaving the Bruce with the catchy adage, try, try, try again. So that is a little insight into how the mythology of spiders helped shape my stories. Until next time.